And the worst of the immigrants, says the Sunday Herald Sun, are the Somalis.
An analysis of the police statistics and 2006 census figures shows, on average, 1 in 9 Victorians born in Somalia committed a crime in the state last year.
A proper analysis shows nothing of the sort. Liam Houlihan has made a crucial mistake. According to what the Sunday Herald Sun calls
an anatomy of crime in Victoria.
In the 12 months to June 2007, 283 Somali-born people committed a crime out of a Somali-born population in Victoria of 2,626, roughly 1 in 9. But that figure is taken from a table in the police statistics called alleged offenders. And a note in the preamble says about this category,
persons are counted on each occasion they are processed, e.g. a person processed on 3 occasions will be counted 3 times.
In other words, the table tells us that Somali-born people were involved in 283 alleged offences, but it doesn't tell us the number of people involved because some individuals committed more than one offence. Liam Houlihan should have looked at a different set of figures, headed distinct alleged offenders. According to the small print, this category
refers to the number of distinct individual offenders processed for the commission of an offence.
So this category shows the actual number of Somali-born Victorians allegedly involved in crime. And it's not 283, but just 115. Not 1 in 9 Somali-born Victorians, but 1 in 23. Doesn't have quite the same ring to it, does it? The Sunday Herald Sun's Chief of Staff Chris Tinkler told MediaWatch,
the Sunday Herald Sun collated the figures from the table titled Alleged Offenders because we believed it to be the most comprehensive.
Well, especially on a topic like this, believed doesn't cut it. The Sunday Herald Sun should have checked its analysis with the police statisticians, and they didn't. The result was a beat-up on a much more sensitive topic than the price of copper wire. And now to another sensitive issue that's been tying the journalistic profession in knots in the last few days, the coverage of remote Aboriginal communities in the Northern Territory. One of many decisions made by the Howard government's Indigenous Affairs Minister Mal Brough was that the permit system should be abolished.
Well,
the public, including journalists, would no longer need advance permission from land councils to enter Aboriginal land. It was a controversial decision, but one that was warmly welcomed by many senior journalists who've been trying to cover the sad state of Australia's remote communities. Fairfax's veteran Darwin-based correspondent Lindsay Murdoch, for example, told MediaWatch,
I strongly believe that for too long communities have been closed societies and vested interests have hid behind the permit system.
Another heavy hitter is Paul Toohey, who's covered the territory for many years. He told us,
I accept that most Aboriginal people want the permit system to remain. I think it's not serving them well.
But the Journalists' Union, the Media, Arts and Entertainment Alliance, took a different view. In a formal submission to Mal Brough's department early last year, it declared,
amending the permit system is the equivalent of fiddling while Rome burns.
That submission gobsmacked many experienced journalists. It was ignored by the Howard government. The Rudd government, by contrast, is committed to restoring the permit system. But the new Indigenous Affairs Minister, Jenny Macklin, recently told Fairfax's Lindsay Murdoch that she was leaning towards exempting bona fide journalists from having to get permits. However, as Murdoch told MediaWatch, there was a proviso.
Macklin said she wanted a code of conduct to apply to journalists visiting Aboriginal lands. She said she'd prefer it to come from journalists, not bureaucrats. Did I think I could come up with something that would enjoy broad support, including the Media Alliance?
So, Fairfax's Lindsay Murdoch sat down and hastily wrote a draft code of conduct. He showed it to 2 veteran ABC journalists in Darwin, the 7:30 Report's Murray McLaughlin and another senior Alliance member, Genevieve Hussey. They both okayed it. Ms Hussey told MediaWatch,
I had a brief look at it. I just assumed it was a draft. You know, it gets kicked around. Everyone has a talk about it.
But that didn't happen. Murdoch sent his draft to the MEAA in Sydney. And within days, apparently having consulted no one else, Christopher Warren sent a letter to Jenny Macklin's department.
The Media, Entertainment and Arts Alliance makes the following suggestions for a code of conduct.
Remarkably, the suggested code declared,
On arrival in a community, media representatives will report to the police and council at the first opportunity and inform them what they intend doing in the community.
It wasn't till a week later that Christopher Warren informed his own members, and by the way, I'm one of them, of what he'd done. 3 days after that, the Australian's media supplement printed a furious blast from Paul Toohey.
With rules this silly, the MEAA can shove my Walkley. Paul Toohey. I have one precious Walkley Award for magazine reporting on Indigenous affairs. I've sent it back to where it came from. Addressed to Christopher Warren, Federal Secretary of the Media, Entertainment and Arts Alliance. What if a journalist wants to do a story about the local police or corruption in the local council? Since when does the independent media announce its intentions to the state?
Toohey isn't a member of the MEAA, which is perhaps why he wasn't consulted in the first place. But Tony Kosh is. A senior reporter for The Australian based in Brisbane, he's covered the good and the appalling in remote Aboriginal communities for years. As Kosh told the ABC's Lateline on Thursday, he wasn't consulted either, and he thinks the code proposed by his own union is absurd.
As for getting permission, I mean, this is not communist Russia. That's just a nonsense suggestion.
Tony Kosh told MediaWatch that in his opinion, 100% of Queensland journalists would be opposed to the code as currently worded. As for Paul Toohey, he told Lateline,
I'll simply ignore it. I just won't adhere to it, and nor will anyone else.
Suddenly, everyone was backing off. The 7:30 Report's Murray McLaughlin told MediaWatch,
I didn't pay enough attention to that bit about the police. Do I resign from it? Yes, I do. It's wrong.
And Christopher Warren has now withdrawn the suggested code of conduct. He told us,
In retrospect, we should have consulted more people in the beginning and got some constructive comment.
Of course you should have, Mr. Warren. It's a lesson that journalists should stay clear of doing politicians' work for them, even with the best intentions, and that unions should talk to their members first and politicians afterwards. Channel 10's Cameron Bowe knows that some situations need action, not words. He was in the middle of a live cross last week on day 2 of the Formula One Grand Prix at Albert Park. The heat had kept crowd numbers down, he was telling viewers.
Which is a shame because they've missed something pretty exciting from Mark Webber. He was setting the pace in practice for most of the day. In fact, up until 2.5 minutes to go in the final session, when he then lost it, obviously, with idiots like that hanging around. But, yeah, he lost it to McLaren's Lewis Hamilton, who has pipped him with the fastest lap time of the day.
And Cameron carried on without missing a beat. Now that's style. That's all for this time. Join me again next week.